Nucleus Software presents CNBC-TV18 Banking Transformation Summit, 3rd edition.
Hello and welcome to the 3rd edition of the Banking Transformation Summit. I'm Parikshit Luthra and it's my privilege to bring you this special curtain raiser. This year's theme is Banking that Builds Bharat, AI-powered, credit-driven. And when we talk about leaders who have shaped India's financial technology journey, one name stands out. He's not just a witness to the digital evolution of banking, but a driving force behind it. Joining us today is Vishnu Dusad, Managing Director and Co-founder of Nucleus Software, a visionary who for nearly 4 decades has successfully built world-class intellectual property for the world and not just import it. Under his leadership, Nucleus has transformed financial services across 50-plus countries while staying deeply rooted in the mission of financial inclusion and nation building. Over the next few minutes, we'll explore with him how evolving technology will reshape India's banking story and what it really means for Bharat's future. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on this program.
Pleasure is mine, Parikshit.
I'd like to begin by asking you, the theme this year is Banking that Builds Bharat. What do you think is so special about the current moment in India's journey when it comes to transforming the way Indians do banking?
This is a very unique moment, I must say, that we are at, where we have demonstrated to the world that India can do, Bharat can do things very differently. I'll mention 3 things. One is our Jan Dhan initiative with 560 million accounts, 55% of them are active. Then our UPI, where we are looking at, we have already crossed 20 billion transactions in the month of August 25, and we are on our way to take it to 30 billion over next year or so, in the process making billion transactions, digital transactions per day. Now, these are the points which would give any economy a strength, a capability which is absolutely unimaginable. With this, we are ready for the credit takeoff. We have, as of now, reached 57% of domestic GDP in terms of credit. I think the scope for that to grow and grow at the right levels, right segments of economy is very, very high.
Nucleus Software has a presence in over 50 countries. You've seen the transformation of the banking sector over the years, from computerization to digitization and now intelligent banking. What do you think should be a priority now in terms of increasing the flow of credit to the society and increasing its coverage in a uniform manner all across the country?
80s and 90s were the decades where we were just computerizing. Next 2 decades were the decades where we were digitizing and making things happen at a faster pace. And this is a decade, these are the decade and a half, where we should be able to reach to the lowermost segments of the society in a very effective manner, because the infrastructure that is required, digital public infrastructure, that is very much in place, that is functioning in a robust manner, and creating a track record which can be analyzed and put to use very effectively to take credit to the lowermost segments of economy, like MSMEs, like gig workers, like the poorest of the poor.
Do you still believe that when it comes to NBFCs and banking institutions in some of the remotest parts of the country, are we still bogged down by legacy systems? What are some of the biggest hurdles to modernization according to you?
We are modernizing. We are modernizing at a reasonable pace, but yes, we do need to take a slightly different mindset when it comes to modernization. Sometimes we become over conservative, and that is something that we would need to reflect and apply our mind to. How can you participate in experiments in a very open manner? There would be certain failures. So, can we create experiments with limited risks by ensuring that the risks are minimized, and yet look at the upside of those experiments and make things happen. The latest technologies getting adopted.
The world is now realizing that no business can succeed without AI. And there are some very basic concepts of AI which everyone is using. But we really need to think ahead 10, 15 years in advance. How should companies use AI, keeping their future growth in mind? And how can we use AI tools to increase the flow of credit, according to you?
AI, I would say, when put to use in a most effective manner, is going to be a biggest boon, certainly for Bharat, because one of the challenges that we have is lack of what we can say HX, human experience, or hyper personalization, if you want to look at it from using a different terminology. Anytime any individual's needs are very specific, and so far, while we've done a reasonable progress in that direction, it is not adequate enough, and that is where AI, when put to use in a most explainable manner, would add a tremendous value to ensuring that the credit that is expected, that is required by individuals, is as per her or his requirements.
As someone who's looked at the transformation of the Indian banking sector very closely over decades, what more do we need to do in order to bring more people, more gig workers, more MSMEs, small businesses across the country, women and entrepreneurs into the formal banking system, the formal credit system as well? What percentage of our economy right now is covered under the formal credit system, and what's the opportunity here?
The opportunity is huge, actually. We are looking at a credit requirement of some $500 billion that these sectors could very easily consume. What we lack, and that's where the technology is going to help now. What we lack is how do we encourage these sectors, these segments of economy, to reach out to the formal banking sector and get meaningful credit coming from the formal banking sector. And the reason why we can say that this is the right time is through the infrastructure, the digital public infrastructure that we have created. We have now access to literally hundreds of billions of transactions from let's say 400 million entities. Now, these hundreds of billions of transactions from these 400 million entities, and that number itself is going to grow, obviously, it will touch 1 billion entities someday. They help us analyze the needs in a very specific manner, and then our banking community is very innovative. They would be able to come out with products, offerings which are so meaningful that these segments like SMEs or gig workers, they would be able to find them very meaningful.
We have seen cyber frauds, we've seen attacks on the banking sector, and all of that will always, when you use technology, cyber threats will always come hand in hand, and you have to be prepared for it. So how do you think our formal credit system, our banking sector, financial institutions need to be prepared for that challenge so that people believe in these institutions?
No, I'm glad that you raised the topic about cyber fraud. I think this is one challenge which we as banking technology industry as well as banks, we need to come together. And as we speak, banking committee of CII is seized of this challenge, and there are solutions that are being worked out so that the cyber frauds come down from the peak that they have reached now. So that is clearly one area that we need to work upon. The other areas are how do we make sure that our AI engines, our algorithms, they are unbiased. As we have seen, through the examples that have been coming from the West, AI engines are likely to be biased very easily, and once that happens, then the trust can get affected, and I must compliment our central bank, Reserve Bank of India, that they have already issued a policy just last week itself, and with this policy in place, they would continue to set the guardrails to make sure that AI is put to use in a responsible way, in a way that does not hurt any one segment of the society.
You know, just to take the example of Nucleus Software for that matter, when it comes to using all these modern software tools, artificial intelligence, how are you deploying these tools to identify a target audience and also make the experience fruitful for the customer? NBFCs, banking institutions in small parts of the country, remote parts of the country, what can they do in terms of deploying these tools to find the right target audience and give a satisfactory response to the customer as well?
While we are talking about the growth that has taken place in banking industry and banking technology, how it has helped, still there are areas, pockets of areas where the end customers are challenged, in the sense that if there are, let's say, 10 numbers on a statement of account, then the reader's ability to understand the implications of those 10 numbers, the interest rate, and then the, let's say, EMI and interest amount, and so on and so forth, may be limited. And that is where we as a company have taken up one of the use cases to communicate with the end users in their own language the various elements of the statement of account. And that we have noticed is finding very good appreciation from the end user community. And this is just one example of how AI can be put to use for far better communication or link between the customers and the banking industry.
I'm going to take a short break at this point, but this conversation is only getting more interesting. When we return, we'll speak about India's global positioning in the banking sector. What more can we do? And I'm sure your career will give us a lot of examples for that as well. So we're taking a break here, but don't go anywhere. When we return, we explore India's position on the global banking stage and how our innovations are now shaping the world. Stay with us.
Nucleus Software presents CNBC-TV18 Banking Transformation Summit, 3rd edition.
Welcome back. We've been in conversation with Vishnu Dusad, MD, co-founder of Nucleus Software, on how technology and credit are shaping Bharat's banking story. Let's now shift gears and talk about India's global positioning and how our digital transformation is influencing the future of banking worldwide. The big news coming in, of course, is on the GST front. This is something that global investors had been speaking for many years, that there should be rate rationalization. You can't have 4 different rates. You need to simplify the GST structure. It had been a major industry demand as well. How do you think this will have a ripple effect on the banking sector and overall Indian economy in the long term?
I would say what has been announced recently is something that would have a huge boost effect on the economy. Simplification is something that was required, and then on top of that, bringing down the rates has also would also help a great deal. I think the way over last around decade that we have been rolling out GST, we've gone into some sort of a disciplined, if not highly disciplined, but a disciplined society, where we file our returns on a monthly basis, we file our taxes on monthly basis, we can feel proud of contributing to the exchequer on a regular basis, and that has given the government also some leg room to try out various things. And I would like to say that this is the first such attempt, first such substantive attempt, where we are now tweaking the engine to make sure that the right cylinders are firing.
You know, they say every crisis leads to an opportunity. Today, the US has imposed 50% tariffs on India. People are saying don't ever leave a good crisis. GST, great, big reform, long pending reform. But if there were the next generation reforms, if you had to recommend, what would those be and what would you hope for?
How do we eliminate the remnants of license Raj that are still there at the operating level? You know, we even in 2025, you have a situation where more than 10 inspectors can visit your factory, and I think that is a bit challenging, certainly in 2025. So if some similar bold moves are taken by the government to make sure that only one inspection visits and rest of it is captured through digital media, things would be very impactful.
Right. You know, during the G20, it was such a proud moment for India because the India stack and how we are going about our financial inclusion was on display to the rest of the world. There were so many countries who wanted to partner with us. We've taken UPI to so many countries as well. What more can India do in terms of taking the message with UPI, our financial inclusion schemes all over the world?
A couple of things. I think we are very good at creating something that is of UPI scale and standard. But as of now, we may or may not be ready to make sure that it gets adopted at the pace that it is worthy of getting adopted. There are always cultural nuances, there are always some local challenges that need to be addressed. And while we are talking about at least 8 countries where UPI is within quotes functional, the adoption is going to take time, and that it will take time because as of this moment we have not involved the local players in those markets. The more local players we bring into our ambit, um, our ability to make sure that this gets adopted and becomes a global standard, as it has become in terms of at least number of transactions. At least we've beaten Visa, as we all know, in terms of number of transactions. So it will become much bigger than that, both in terms of number of transactions as well as the value at much far higher a pace once we are able to address this cultural nuance of localization.
Now, if we fast forward to 2030, could you give us your vision of what an inclusive, credit-driven Bharat will look like?
I think gig economy is going to be sizable. We are talking about at least something like 100 million people. SMEs are going to be, let's say, 65 million. These segments, and then of course we are talking about the bottom of the pyramid also. All these segments by 2030 would have had created their digital profiles unknowingly. So inclusive Bharat of 2030 would be leveraging these digital profiles to make sure that the credit is made available to all of them if possible, and then proactively kept track of. Again, the need for the conventional methods to keep track of credit may hopefully go away, because you have that digital footprint which is getting created every day, every hour. So when you track that for a couple of weeks and realize that no, this is this particular gig worker, his inflow is reducing, you may be able to go back to him or her and say that, okay, we notice this is what is happening. Is there anything that we can help? And just imagine the kind of satisfaction, the comfort this borrower is going to have with you as a banker. So these are some of the features of the credit industry that one can visualize for 2030. I'm sure the bankers are applying their mind, and we from banking technology industry are ready to support them wholeheartedly.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. It's been a wonderful conversation, a true masterclass, so to say, for many entrepreneurs, startups who would be tuning in to watch this conversation. Thanks once again for being with us.
Thank you.
It was very important how Mr. Vishnu Dusad showed us that technology in banking is not just about efficiency, it's about empowerment, trust, and building Bharat's growth story. And this is just the beginning. At the Banking Transformation Summit 2025, you will hear from India's most respected leaders across banking, policy, fintech, and NBFCs, and how we can shape a financial ecosystem that doesn't just support growth, but drives it. Stay tuned as we set the stage for a transformative dialogue that could define the next decade of Indian banking.
Nucleus Software presents CNBC-TV18 Banking Transformation Summit, 3rd edition.